Welcome to another episode of Divorce Explained with Steve Benmore and myself. We have a really interesting topic this week, which is called emotional justice and divorce. And we're very excited to have a guest today. Our guest is Feryial Parvez, and Feryial is a certified divorce coach. She's currently based in the UK, but she has clients all over the world. And Feryial has a business that is called Empowered to Renew. That's her divorce coaching business, and she helps people who are going through divorce. She helps them managing their emotions, making decisions, and working with their lawyers and mediators and everyone else who's part of the process. So, welcome to the podcast, Feryial. We're really excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Stephen and Leanne, for having me on today. I thought maybe I could give you a little background on why I became a certified divorce coach.
Absolutely.
So about 3 years ago, my sister called me and told me she was in a very abusive, toxic relationship, and she was hiding it from us. So we had no idea what she was going through. But she had come to a point where her anxiety was through the roof. She felt like she was walking in eggshells, and she didn't see any solution to the problem. So from that moment that I received that phone call till we signed the divorce papers, and I say we because I was with her on that process from start to finish, and I'm still on that process with her to help her rebuild. It is one of the most traumatizing things I think I've ever experienced emotionally, physically, and mentally. But the biggest thing that really spoke to me was the disconnect with the lack of emotional aspect to the divorce. We just have someone who had the courage to walk out of a very toxic marriage environment that was unhealthy for them. And then there's thrown into the business of divorce. Okay, what are the legal aspects? What are the financial aspects? What is alimony going to look like for me? What are the child supports the support going to look like for me? How am I going to make the decisions for my future? And like, I couldn't believe it. Like, this person is so fragile at this state, and then we expect them to be like a robot and have all the knowledge about their finances and make these big decisions for themselves, but not process any of the emotions. And I find that has a devastating effect. So when the divorce papers were signed, I fell upon this certification divorce coaching program, and I was like, I didn't even know this existed. I didn't know there was this kind of resources and support out there. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, this would be something really good for my sister to take part in, to help her, rebuild her confidence and just get herself back in the world. But she said it would be too triggering for her at that moment. So then I thought, why don't I do this? Like, I've done it for almost 2 years with her. And, I would get the proper skill set, the proper training, and the tools to really help people, because honestly, guys, I don't want anyone to go through what my sister went through. And if I can help people journey be better, more productive, and I think it can just make such a big difference. If we had a divorce coach for my sister, I think the outcome would have been even better than we have right now.
When you talk about coaching, people think that a coach is someone that coaches a sports team or an athlete to be better at what they already are pretty good at. So somebody might be a really good track and field runner or boxer or horseback equestrian rider, and they have a coach, and it improves their already pre-existing skill set. But the truth of the matter is, people that go through divorce have no history in divorce. So putting aside the fact that divorce is emotionally devastating to most people don't have any experience in going through the process of divorce. And by the way, when I say process, there's two processes. There's the actual physical events that one goes through. But then there's what you just described, Feryial, which is the emotional journey, which is completely separate and apart. And so when we talk about coaching, forget your sister for a second. When you're coaching a stranger, how do you know at what level you're coming in at to know how to help them? Because not everybody is coming to you at the exact same place on the ladder emotionally. And how do you position yourself to be the right coach at the right moment in their journey?
Well, thank you for that question. It's actually a really good question. as a divorce coach, I help people in all stages of divorce, whether they're contemplating it, whether they're going through it, or when they're transitioning into their new chapter. But to figure out where everyone is, I like to give people the time, the space, a space that's safe from, judgment, and let them really process their feelings, talk to me, tell me their divorce story. Because when people are going through the divorce process, they don't have time to talk about these things. You just give a very short summary, and that gets bulldozed by the financials and property and all that. So I really make the time to get to know my clients, to understand where they are. There's two facets to divorce, right? Either you serve the divorce papers or you're the one who's receiving the divorce papers. Now, if you've served the divorce papers, you've had time to process. You might feel a lot of guilt, you might feel a lot of anxiety, and you recognize that this marriage is not right for you. But the person who received the divorce papers might be blindsided. So their reaction and where they are going to be on the ladder is going to be completely different. And the person who served the papers is going to be in a complete different position on the ladder as well. So I really try to take the time to understand where they're coming from and then provide the appropriate care and tools they need to go through this journey. And the focus should always be forward. I let clients talk about their story, but I don't let them get stuck in the story, because that never helps. You need to start looking forward and focusing forward.
Now, our topic today is emotional justice and divorce. And as a family law lawyer, I'm not so sure that those two words necessarily go together in the same sentence. I have clients, and often they're looking for some sort of emotional validation through the divorce process. And I always advise them, they may or may not get that, because, they may not get the result that they were hoping to get. The other party, who may be abusive, may be a bully, may be financially abusing them, whatever it might be, that party may have some success. A judge might side with that party on certain things. And so, justice is always a tricky word. And so to me, emotional justice is probably even trickier. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Well, that's a very good point. Emotional justice to me, is how I see it, is acknowledging and validating the emotional experience of divorce. It's true, because emotional justice cannot be given to you by anyone. It's something you have to give yourself. And that's the core difference. So, to me, emotional justice is the idea of finding a sense of fairness and closure on an emotional level. And even if the legal outcome is unfair, it's about acknowledging the pain, processing the hurt, and moving forward without being weighed down by the resentment and anger. I mean, it's not easy to achieve. I'm not saying that at all, but it is achievable if we have the right mindset and we have the right support. It's not emotional justice doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect. Everything's resolved now, but it does mean that maybe we've reached a place of acceptance and peace. And this is what I work on with my clients. I help them let go of the past and take control of what they can actually control and focus on their life after divorce.
And I'm going to pick up on that last phrase, Feryial, life after divorce. It's been now 32 years that I have been servicing people through divorce. And I would say for the first maybe 20 plus years, it was really me servicing a train wreck, going in there and first of all, surveying the damage, and then extracting the bodies and getting them proper treatment. It was very much like I was a first responder in a multi-car pileup. But in the last few years, and by the way, where I'm going with this is the name of your company, Empower
Yes.
to Renew. Where I'm going with this is in the last few years, Feryial, is I have tried really hard to find the right moment when I help people to get them to start visualizing happy. And while they're in the middle of this, what many think is a disaster, it is feasible to look over there and see sunshine. They may not actually be in sunshine yet, but at least if I could say, look really far over there, there's some sunshine. And at least that gives them a glimmer of hope as they're going through this tragedy. And it actually sometimes not only makes the experience of the divorce lesser, but it actually shortens the time, because everybody wants to get to happy sooner. So it allows people to say, you know what I would have thought is a really important thing, it's not so important, because if I really focus so much on that, I'm going to delay happy, and I don't want to delay happy. So when we talk about your company, Empower to Renew, I love what you said about not looking backwards, looking forwards. How do you sort of wipe the people's glasses off so they can actually see the sunshine that is out there waiting for them?
I think the most important thing we can do, again, as a divorce coach, is to provide that space for people to feel validated with their emotions and really understand what their journey has been up to this date, figure out where they are and what kind of help they need. But I think whoever you've helped, I've been so lucky that you have been a more empathetic lawyer and really have guided them to, like, there is good after this, But I think the problem happens is that people don't have the right support when they're going through the divorce, and they're aiming for that. Okay, I just need to sign the divorce papers and magically everything's just going to fall in place for me. But they're not addressing their emotional needs. They're not addressing and going through all the reactions. It's a very traumatic experience, but just to pretend that it didn't happen or just sweep it under the rug because you have to get in with the business of divorce, it doesn't leave room for that to explore, okay, why am I feeling these things? People are just rushing through the process to get to that happy. I step in and say, okay, look, this is happening and we have to accept it, but we're going to get past this if we focus on these things. And a lot of times people are very intimidated, right? The whole process is so intimidating. Like, maybe I don't know all my finances. Maybe I feel dumb in front of my lawyer saying, I actually don't understand how this works. And this prolongs the process. But having me there by their side, I can hold their hand, break these big tasks into smaller tasks, and make them feel like, empowered. Like, oh, actually, you know what? I do understand my finances. And I always say to my clients, knowledge is power. So if you don't know something, doesn't mean that that's what the result is going to be. We can learn and we can grow from it, and we can make ourselves stronger moving forward. So my job is really to handhold and take those people to those golden gates and make sure they get there.
Now, you kind of touched upon it a little bit in your last answer there. I think there are a number of emotional challenges that people go through when they're going through divorce. And it's not the same for everyone, because everyone's not coming to it with the same background and skill set and tolerance for, stress or emotional regulation. I find it can be challenging when you have clients who are very emotionally, dysregulated and call you, impulsively, anytime there's like a little bit of anxiety. And so in your experience working with your clients, what are some of the most common emotional challenges that you see people going through when they're going through the divorce process?
Well, one of the most common things I see is that shame, that guilt that they failed at this marriage. They couldn't keep it up. They couldn't survive. And then there's obviously, you feel anger, you feel tons of anxiety. And this the fear of the unknown, and then having to, you also have you struggle with this loss of identity. Maybe you were in a long-term relationship or marriage, and now all of a sudden you're single and your whole life is upside down. That's a big challenge. And then if your parents, like, oh my God, how is this divorce going to affect my children? I mean, what is the impact going to be on them? And then just the general, the society, what does society think of me? Am I a failure? These are really strong emotions that really overwhelm people. And, when people get bogged down by this, they're not able to make the right decisions for themselves. They're so busy trying to cater to society, community, and the fear, the shame, that they are overwhelmed and unable to make the right decisions.
I have found that divorce, back to the subject of life after divorce, offers people an opportunity to chart a new life or a new chapter in their life. Again, back to the name of your company, Empower to Renew. The word renew is actually a nice word. It's not a negative word. It's a word that, some people do a makeover. Some people do a fresh haircut, a new wardrobe. Maybe they get a new, set of furniture in their home. And that's all renewal. And that's all material, by the way. But, on a spiritual level, and you use the word emotional justice. So on an emotional or spiritual level, renewal is actually a really good opportunity. So my question, I guess, is, when you're coaching somebody through divorce, does the discussion about trying out new things come up, in the sense that, that didn't work really well for you in the past relationship? Like, let's not redo that. And I'll tell you, I see a lot of people making the same mistakes in their second and third relationships because they never actually renewed. They didn't actually change their course of action. And so in coaching, where does that rhythm start, to start planning a new approach to life?
Well, I think it goes back to, again, actually creating and having a safe space to acknowledge these emotions, identify what these emotions are. That's really important. And if we don't have an opportunity to do that, we will probably keep jumping and doing the same things that we're used to, because that's our learned behavior. But if we stop and recognize, like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Why do I feel this way? Can have a tremendous effect on how we approach our life afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Now, I always like for things to be, to have a positive spin, which is kind of what we're doing here and what you're doing with your company. Do you have a positive success story that you could share with a client that you've worked with, and kind of outlining where they were at and where you were able to help them get to in the process that might, offer some hope for somebody out there who's struggling right now?
Actually, yes, I did really recently. Actually, there was a gentleman that I was helping that was about a year into their divorce process, and their cousin said, "Why don't you talk to a divorce coach, me?" And I spoke to them, and they were just so frustrated because it became a very high conflict case, and there was a lot of animosity, and he was ready to just sign everything. Like, he was agreeing to just see his kids once a month. And I just talked to him, gave him that space. We processed what he was feeling, why he was feeling these things. He was feeling a lot of pressure because the legal fees just kept going up, and he was draining his bank accounts, and he was just scared. He was just scared, and he needed to talk to somebody to figure out. And I just simply said to him that, you don't have to take this decision right now. Are you sure you want to sign a paper that says that you will only see your kids once a month? Why don't we take a breather? Let's take a step back. Let's write an email to your lawyer together right now and say, I need 2 weeks to just process everything and rethink everything over. And he stepped back, and then we had a few more conversations, and I really asked him, like, what is it that you see for your future? What do you see? I know this marriage is over now, but that doesn't define you. This is not the end for you. There's like Stephen said, there's that light at the end of the tunnel, and we need to focus on that. But what is it that would make you happy? What's your best case scenario right now? And we went through all these scenarios, and he started realizing that, wait, he does have the capacity to change his life and make the right decisions. Because we had the chance to validate his emotions, talk about his emotions, he then took a step back and took the time he needed to make the decision. And now they're almost close to coming to a final agreement. And I think the divorce should be finalized in a couple of weeks now. So I felt really good. It was so funny because it's someone who works in finance, very professional, but they didn't realize that they can tell their lawyer that, you know what, I need some time. And is that okay? He couldn't believe he could actually do that. And realizing that he actually had the power to decide where this is going, I just think something clicked in him, and he realized, wait a minute, I don't have to rush through this. I need to make the right decisions that are right for me. Maybe they're not the right decisions for the lawyer. Maybe they're not the right decisions for his family and friends, but he made the right decisions that are good for him. And I feel he feels so much more empowered and much happier with his decisions.
When someone's being coached through their divorce, they must form a relationship with their coach. And I guess my question is after the divorce is finished, does the relationship with the divorce coach end, or does it move into some other version of coaching?
It actually becomes more transition and recovery coaching, because actually I feel that people actually need a lot of help once the divorce papers are signed. Once those papers are signed, all the professionals are gone, and you're left on your own now, and you still have to deal with your ex. You still have to co-parent with them, and you still need that sounding board. So I feel like a lot of people still need me, and they will check in with me. And I have people that, will still ask me, how should I communicate with my ex? They're saying this. So I actually noticed that people need me more after the divorce process is ended as well. Like there's a huge need for somebody still to help and hold their hand through this new chapter.
You know, it's funny because we lawyers have very strict rules of confidentiality. And so, like, I can't bring a room full of clients together to talk about their experiences of divorce.
Of course.
But can you do that? And for example, you know, if you do this for 5, 10, 20 years, you would have quite a following. And if you had some sort of like alma mater group on WhatsApp or on Zoom once a month where people could come and say, look, I got divorced 3 years ago and here's my story. It could be very invigorating and encouraging. We can't do that. But is that something that you can do?
That's actually something I'm looking to do. I already have a newsletter that I publish on LinkedIn, and through that, I want to create a support group for people who are going through divorce, might have questions, might be my clients, but it becomes a safe space for everyone to share their experiences. And you learn so much from sharing people's stories, right? The more knowledge we have, the more we share, the more knowledge we have. So I definitely believe that is something very powerful that I can give to my clients. And I'm actually currently collaborating with a few other experts to hopefully provide that to my clients in the future.
Really good idea.
Now, this kind of ties in with that. If there's somebody out there listening and they're thinking, oh, like maybe a divorce coach sounds like a good idea, but I'm not really sure how it even works. Can you just take us through, like, first of all, do you just right now work with individuals? Is it a group process? How does somebody who contacts you and says, hey, Feryial, I think I could use your services, walk us through how that looks?
Well, first of all, if they can find me on Instagram, they can find me on LinkedIn, and if they message me or email me, I'll reach out to them and I'll say, let's do a free discovery session, which kind of takes the pressure off because it's such a daunting task already. You have all these bills while you're going through divorce. The last thing you want to do is, oh, I need to pay another person. But so I give them that opportunity, come sit down with me, talk to me for about 20, 25 minutes. I kind of tell them where I see they need the help, where they can go. And from that, I leave it to them to decide how they'd like to go. We could do 3 sessions, we could do 6 sessions. And some clients want to do 12 sessions. They buy 12 sessions in one go because they just feel from that first conversation, I think they feel validated for the first time in the process. And they're like, okay, I think this could really help me. So there's a variety of ways that I can help people.
Can you ever coach both spouses through the divorce, or are you only coaching one side of it?
I personally feel that I can best serve one person. I think a couples therapist would do more good for somebody who's seeking to get that kind of help. But I think my strength is actually working with individuals to process their grief, to process their emotions, to make the better decisions. I don't know if the dynamic works in a group, especially if there's issues that haven't been addressed. I think that goes more into therapy then.
Mm-hmm.
Do you work with men and women or just women?
I initially was, geared to work with women, but surprisingly, I've had a few men inquire, and I'm currently helping the gentleman I just told you about right now. So I think, if anyone needs help, I'm ready to give it to them. And again, like I said, I just don't want anyone to go through what my sister went through. And now I feel very confident because I have the skills, the tools to really help and make a difference in their journey.
Feryial, I have to say that when you take a personal story and you expand it and then use the knowledge and the experience that you've gained to help a much larger population of people, you're so invested in it. You've got passion, you've got hunger, and I could tell that from the way you're speaking. You really are invested in this. You could probably make more money doing other things, but you make a heck of a lot more satisfaction and fulfillment because you saw what your sister went through, and you don't want other people to go through that. And I just wanted to say kudos to you and good on you for taking a personal story and making it into a source and a tool of success for so many others.
Thank you so much for recognizing that. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time today.
Well, it was great having you, Feryial Parvez, founder of Empowered to Renew. And I certainly learned a lot about the role of divorce coaches through the process. And so I thank you, Feryial, for joining us today. And we look forward to talking to you again sometime in the future.
Yes, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Feryial. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And thank you to our listeners. We will see you here again next time on Divorce Explained.